All right, well, welcome everyone. It's end of April, and this is our COVID update, our community COVID update. There's actually been a lot going on with vaccine, kind of a total overhaul again of what COVID vaccine looks like. So we'll go through some of that. But to start, the good news is cases, hospitalizations, and deaths remain low across New Mexico and across the US. So not zero. We still all know someone who's out of work because of COVID. But overall, it looks like our lull continues. This is the community transmission map. So this is looking at cases and percent positivity. So it's a little bit more mixed here. The interesting thing about this map, which this is the one that healthcare facilities are supposed to use to decide, like, do you need to mask inside the hospital or not? And the interesting thing about this is that it probably is going to go away somewhere after the end of the public health emergency. So May 11th is when the federal public health emergency will close after 3 years. And that means that some of the required reporting that states have had to the CDC will change. And one of the things is that negative tests probably will not be required anymore to be reported. For most diseases, we have only positives are required, not negatives. So that means we won't be able to figure out the percent positivity, which is a metric we've used a lot during this pandemic. And it's a metric that makes this map. So healthcare facilities will, I think CDC is looking to come up with something else to help healthcare facilities decide how to stay safe. Okay, for New Mexico, this is looking just at New Mexico cases per 100,000 per week, and we remain low. So a lull really since the end of January. And then looking at the variants that we have, and again, XBB continues to be the dominant variant. It really has been the main game in town since early February. But what has started to show up is this dark purple here at the bottom of the bars, and that is XBB 1.16, and that's a variant that has been strong in India and taking over there, causing a lot more cases. It's also a population that's a lot less vaccinated than the United States. So we're starting to see it here. But I think we can be reasonably confident. We never know. Each new variant behaves a little bit differently. But overall, we've had different variants come in since the beginning of the year. Well, and none of them have really caused a big surge. And again, I think that is likely because so many people have immunity from either vaccine or from having had COVID or both. So we will hope the same holds up for XBB 0.1.16 if it takes over. Okay, so now for the vaccine changes. Basically, we've had these two sets of vaccines. One is the original vaccine, also known as the monovalent vaccine. And then starting in September of 2022, we started to have the bivalent vaccine or the Omicron vaccine. So those two are the same, bivalent and Omicron vaccine. And, it led to a very complicated schedule, and it was very complicated for providers who were holding 11, 12, or 13 different vaccines just for COVID, which really no other disease has anything like that. So, I think for lots of reasons, the FDA decided to simplify the schedule, and they basically just got rid of all the monovalent mRNA vaccines. So we still have Novavax, which is a monovalent but not an mRNA vaccine. And then we still have J&J until May 6th. And on May 6th, the last bottle of J&J in the country expires, and we will not have J&J as an option anymore. So from now on, I'm just going to talk about the mRNA vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, and basically they also simplified the schedule for people and basically said, in order to be up to date with your COVID vaccine, you just have to have one bivalent dose. So if you are someone who's never been vaccinated before, but you decide maybe now's the time, you don't have to get a primary series and then some boosters. You just have to, no vaccine, have no history of vaccine. You can walk in and get one bivalent dose, either Pfizer or Moderna, and be done. And that, I should just qualify, it's for people 6 and over that we have this really simplified schedule. So then, okay, I'm kind of ahead of my slides, I think, here. So we've covered this. So they're really trying to get away from even talking about the primary series and the booster. It's just kind of more like flu shot. This is the shot that you need right now. For kids, it gets a little more complicated. And let me just back up, because I think the group that's really interested in some of these changes is the group of people 65 and over. They're more vulnerable to COVID, and their immunity wanes faster than younger people. For that group of people, they can get a second bivalent vaccine, or it's hard not to say booster, but a second bivalent booster or vaccine 4 months from when they got their first one. So that gives that group of people, I think, some flexibility to decide. It's not a strong, you have to do this recommendation. You're still up to date if you're 65 and over and have gotten one vaccine, one bivalent vaccine. But it gives people the option. Maybe someone's going to travel, go see grandkids, or, is a fan of large indoor concerts and feels at risk when they go. That group of people may want to move forward with getting the second booster. Also, let's say XBB really rolls in, the 1.16 rolls in and seems like cases are on the rise again. Well, then maybe our 65-year-olds and older will want to get that second dose. The other group that were approved for a second bivalent dose is the immune compromised. It's that same, same definition of immune compromise, which is not just a little bit of immune compromise, but fairly serious immune compromise. That group can get a second bivalent 2 months from their first bivalent. And again, we're talking 6 and older for this recommendation. So again, giving that group of people
stuff I just said. And then if anyone has any.
Okay. So for kids, the simplified vaccine schedule is not that simple for kids, because so we're really talking about kids under 5 years old, and they probably don't have as much background immunity as people 5 and over. So one of the reasons they changed the recommendation and said 1 is okay now is because so many people have had COVID, especially the unvaccinated, 1, 2, sometimes 3 times, and that does provide some immunity. So now get your bivalent dose and you're good to go. But kids haven't necessarily had that repeated exposure to COVID, and their immune systems work a little bit differently. So if you're 6 months to 5 years old and you want to get Moderna, that's going to be a 2-dose series. And both of those are going to be Omicron doses now, or bivalent doses. If you are 6 months to 5 years and you want Pfizer, they split the ages differently. So a 5-year-old gets the same as people 5 to 11 years old, the orange cap, and that's a 1 dose. And if you're 6 months to 4 years old and you want Pfizer, that's going to be a 3-dose series. And for now, it'll be all Omicron doses. If you started down the path and you haven't finished, you're going to finish up basically with Omicron doses. Okay, and we covered this already. Sorry, I'm a little out of order. Okay, then quick update on hantavirus, because it does look like we have hantavirus every year in the spring in New Mexico, but some years are definitely more active than others, and this is looking like a more active year. There have been 5 cases of hantavirus up in the Four Corners region. That is typically where we see hantavirus. 4 people were hospitalized and 1 person has died. Excuse me. In New Mexico, deer mice can carry the hantavirus. So not all mice spread hantavirus. I myself am not very good at recognizing what a deer mouse is and what a mouse is. So any mouse droppings and any mice, I would advise caution. Hantavirus is not transmitted person to person. Everyone has to, get exposed from it's usually mouse droppings. And the symptoms include flu, stomach bug, fatigue, fever, muscle aches, headache, vomiting, diarrhea. So the usual kind of virally symptoms, and it can be hard to know what it is that you have. So hantavirus prevention is really about rodent prevention. So you want to air out any closed up buildings such as cabins and sheds, as well as abandoned or stored vehicles before entering. When I worked out on the Navajo reservation, the vehicles were really, people get their head into the motors and they're working on it. And sometimes there's even nests. And if you disturb those nests, you can kind of get hantavirus kind of in the air and then breathe it in. Trapping mice until they're all gone, seal up homes and shelters to prevent rodents from entering. Don't sweep up rodent droppings. When you sweep, you aerosolize the virus, and then you can inhale it. So if you have to clean up droppings, you want to really spray them with 1 part bleach to 9 parts water, or anything that says disinfectant on it. Spray them down, wear your mask, and then it's okay to clean them up. And don't leave your pet's food and water where mice can get to it. Nothing that attracts mice. And I should say also, Liesl has the link there to the news article about hantavirus, but the Department of Health also does have a page about hantavirus with some, kind of simple graphics about rodent prevention, and CDC has some resources as well. So thanks for all that you do and keep doing. It is kind of crazy that we're still here talking about COVID and looking at new vaccines, but just appreciate all of you for the work you do every day. And I am going to stop sharing and see if there's any questions.
All right. So I was wondering if you were talking about that Arcturus variant that supposedly is starting in, I think there's a few cases in Florida right now. So was that the one that you're mentioning?
Yes, it is such a hard name and I can't really pronounce it, but you are exactly right. That is kind of the pet name it's been given. But one thing to understand is that it is still a child of the original Omicron. So people often have the good question, why should I get this bivalent Omicron booster when we're on to the next variant? We've seen BQ1 and BQ1.1 and XBB 1.5 and XBB 1.9 and XBB 1.1.6. Yikes. Well, it turns out all of those are children of Omicron, of the original Omicron. And so what has been found in studies is that this Omicron bivalent vaccine is still working pretty well against these other siblings of the original Omicron variant.
Cool.
Great question. And if you can pronounce, is it like a star or something? I can't remember how it got named.
I looked it up. I was like, what? It's like something about like supposed to be like the Big Dipper or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Yep, you are exactly right. That's awesome.
Thanks, Joshua. Does anybody have any other questions about anything we presented or other health topics?
And let me just say one other thing, because I think people do tend to just kind of stick new in front of that Omicron, the new booster or the new vaccine. This really isn't new. This is the same vaccine that got approved in September of 2022, and many people have had. So this isn't really, these are new recommendations with, you know, the old booster, I guess, or the old vaccine. So no real change in vaccine. The FDA is looking in June about, like, do we need to change which variants are being rolled into the vaccine for like the fall. And we don't even know if they'll actually say we should all have a fall booster. But anyway, people are continuing to look at it. But for now, it's the same old that we've had. And if you've already had yours and you're under 65, you are good. You don't have to do anything else.
Last call for questions. Anybody have anything? Any other questions? Seems like we did good this time.
All right. Well, thank you as always for the great slides, Liesl.
Thank you as always for presenting. It means a lot that you come every meeting. Yeah.
Totally enjoy it. So I do have to hop off today, but I will see y'all back in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. And now we'll have Glenda, are you here? And we have our interpreter, so it's okay if you present in English.
Thank you, Sarah. Angela is here, actually.
Angela, amazing, amazing. Would you like to introduce yourself, Angela? And a bit
Absolutely. Thank you guys. First of all, thank you guys for having us. I'm Angela Banks Harris. I am a program specialist here at UNM Division of Community Behavioral Health. And I hopefully have a few minutes to talk to you guys about an amazing event that we're holding on Cinco de Mayo. But I also just wanted to shout out my director, Dr. Jose Kanaka. He couldn't be here with us today, but he sent the best replacement ever. His wife, Ms. Glenda, is here as well. We had a conference. We do a conference, a rural psychiatric conference each year. And this year is going to be all in Spanish. Dr. Kanaka came up with this wonderful and magnificent idea. It was like, Angela, let's do an all Spanish conference. And he was quite hesitant, even asking me or even throwing the idea out there. Like, it was like, I understand the hesitancy, of course, thinking people are going to be like, what, we speak English here, right? Why would we need an all Spanish conference? Why would we do something like that? And I was the first one that was like, no, we're doing an all Spanish conference. I don't care what anybody else is saying. What we're going to do is an all Spanish conference. And so we've set our mind to it, and we decided that this year our Rural Psych conference is going to be in all Spanish. Let me see if I can share my screen just so you can see. It will be on Cinco de Mayo. It is going to be from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And I will put this in the chat so you guys can see, because I know it's a little small, but I wanted you guys to be able to get all of the information. We'll have a couple of welcomes that are going to come from our department head, Dr. Towen, and amazing. And then we also have Dr. Neil Bowen. We're not sure if he's going to come. He has agreed to come, but he's the head of the BHSD, so which is where we receive our funding. So that is just tremendous that we know that we have leadership support for this conference. We'll have 4 presentations. One is going to be from Tom Chavez, he is from UNM, from our own division. Absolutely adore him. And then we have built some partnerships with Yale University. So we'll have Dr. Mendola and Dr. Diaz, who will be sharing some of the great, wonderful work that they're doing over there at Yale. They actually have a Spanish-speaking clinic that they're going to be talking a lot about. And so hopefully in the future, we'll be able to implement some of the things that they'll chat with us about. And then we have some representatives from Highland University. I just like to call them Maria and Brenda. They are amazing. They'll talk to us about supervision and how what works to be supervising someone from Hispanic culture, but also speaking Spanish as well, and how to implement some of those cultural aspects in that supervision process. And then last but not least, we wanted to highlight a community organization that absolutely serves the Hispanic community, but also a Spanish-speaking Hispanic community. And so we'll be doing that with Dr. Wagner. This is the first, but this is not the last. I think we have received so much positive support from this, not just in New Mexico, but worldwide. We actually at this point have 175 people that's already registered. So this is huge for us, but it is huge for the Hispanic and Latino community. And we are just excited and wanted to share with you to see if you guys could come. Of course, we love to have you here, but also if you could also just share and get the word out. Conference is actually, although we are doing rural psychiatry, it is going to be geared towards CSWs, peer support workers, families, certified peer workers, because those are the ones that are on the ground and doing the work, right? And most of the time when they are doing the work, they're obviously sometimes overlooked. And we always hear that the work that they do or the conferences that we have or the workshops that we have usually aren't geared to them. And so we wanted to specifically gear this knowledge and some of the workshops and the tools that we have to gear towards them so that they can go out and serve their communities the best of their abilities. So I will definitely drop the registration link in the chat. I will also drop the flyer in the chat. So please send it out. As many as you possibly can, and we would love to see you there as well.
Does anyone have any questions?
Sorry, somebody did say, yes, it will be online this year, but just think big. In 2 years, we're going to be in person, you guys, having a great and exciting celebration with one another.
And there will be translation in English, right, Angela? For people.
Well, that's the biggest thing I know. Like, I should be talking about that. Yes, for us English speakers, okay, yes, there will be some simultaneous translation. So if you come in, you will, there'll be a link that you'll click on that link and it'll take you to the English translation while you are at the conference. So yes, English speakers are welcome as well, of course.
I have a question. And do you have any, did you have blocked any hotel for if we want to go in person?
It's virtual. Something? It's going to be virtual.
Oh, it's virtual. Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's good. Then we can do it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any thoughts? Any questions? Any people who would like to collaborate?
Yeah, I have another question. Is any cap into how many people can attend in the Zoom meeting? Because sometimes it's a cap.
There's a cap of 300, but it's first come, first serve. Right now, we're like, 175, I think. So I don't think at this point we're worried about it. But if you guys decide that you want to share it and get us to 300, it definitely will be 1 to 300. And we could do more, but we absolutely just want to make this a collaborative environment. We want people to see each other. We want people to celebrate each other. So that's why we're capping it at 300.
Thank you. Yeah.